Hey everyone, in a previous video I spoke to you about the MyEnergi Hub and I promised you that at some point I would review the accompanying app. That's now available and it's been through a couple of revisions to fix things. So this video is all about the MyEnergi app. Okay, so as mentioned, I've been putting this video off for a little while, but a few of you have now been reaching out to me saying, Dale, when are you going to do this review of the MyEnergi app? And since they did an update just last week, and it seems to have fixed a couple of niggling issues that I experienced over the last few weeks, I thought now made good sense. I'm going to be showing this to you on my iPhone 8 Plus, but it is also available on Android from the Play Store, so just keep that in mind. There may be a few kind of graphical differences, and obviously the Plus is quite a large phone. So things to understand in relation to the app. The app comes as part of the price that you're paying for the MyEnergi Hub. You obviously have to have the hub already, it doesn't work without that, but you don't have to pay to use the app or to download the app. So it all makes a lot of sense. And then the other things to mention, my setup may be slightly different to yours. I have a Zappi and an Eddi, and I also have the Harvey, which provides wireless information to the CT clamps, and I also have 3 CT clamps. So I have one connected to the grid, which tends to be standard. I also have one connected to the generation part of my solar. I also have one on the battery. So again, these may be certain reasons why what you see on my app may differ from yours slightly, but in this video we're going to go through kind of what you see on the app, how you can control the Eddi and the Zappi from it, how you can kind of view consumption data, and then lastly I will do a comparison as to how it kind of displays that data with the other sources that I have, which be the Solar Edge app and the Tesla Powerball app. So before we kind of load the software on the phone, to kind of do what I'm doing here, I've had to obviously install the app, download it from the Apple store. You go to your Eddi or Zappi, and it's an area where you can get information on there. It has like a special code for your hub. You enter that in and add it as a new site, and then that's then how you get access to this data. I think most reasons that people are going to want to use the app is really for a couple of them. First of all, it comes with the hub, so it makes sense that you would use it. And it's kind of also a requirement from MyEnergi if you want to have the OLEV grant with the Zappi. So from the 1st of July 2019, it's a requirement that you have a smart device, which is where the hub and the app brings that smart capability to the 1st and 2nd generation Zappis. Secondly, you want to have the ability to be able to remotely control and change some of the settings on the Eddi and the Zappi, and this gives you that ability. And then finally, perhaps you have a slightly older system, older solar system I should say, or perhaps it's a newer system that doesn't have smart capabilities. So right now you don't really have a very easy way to graphically show and get access to data in terms of how much energy you're using, how much solar generation you're getting, etc, etc. And this app gives you some of that ability through the data that CT clamps provide to the Eddi and the Zappi, and just kind of aggregates that into one place. So let me grab the phone and then we will kind of open the app up. I'll be able to show it to you here, and we'll kind of go through kind of how things look, how things operate, what's good, what I hope improves in the future, and then we'll wrap up with that comparison. Okay, so I'm going to open up the MyEnergi app and I'm connected currently to my Wi-Fi network. There is a increased delay if you're connecting over a GSM network, so 3G, 4G, LTE, etc. And I'll put a little number down below that shows the difference between connecting via Wi-Fi and via the app. But here we go, we get things loaded up, and we just have to wait for things to connect. So that's one of the first things that is a little bit frustrating compared to some of the other smart devices I'm using. This does take a lot longer to connect, and then once it's connected, it takes some time to sync and pull down the data. And that's all based on the model that MyEnergi have used to kind of put this together. I'm sure they have their reasons why, and this is kind of their first kind of entry into this kind of product, right? So maybe things will change over time. So as mentioned, you will have added a site already. You can add multiple sites or forget them. I have just the one site set up here. And this is basically kind of how the display looks. I'll do a quick pop-up of what things look like when it's a bit more active. But you can see at the time of doing this, my house is using 0.7 kilowatt hours of electricity. I am exporting, again it's changing, but 0.8 kilowatt hours to the grid. My solar system is currently generating 1.6 kilowatt hours, and because I'm not pulling anything from the grid, it's saying I'm 100% green, which is what that little leaf represents in the middle. See down the bottom there's an icon for a battery, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Then to the left we can see what looks like a tank with a shower on. That is for my Eddi, and also in a car with a plug, which is the Zappi. So we'll quickly look at the home, the grid and the solar to start off with. Very similar in terms of the information in there, so we won't spend too long going through it. But basically each of these shows the consumption history either for the day or for yesterday or previous week, last week, etc. So basically similar information which you have access to on the Eddi and the Zappi interface screens. But each of them have these consumption charts. Unfortunately you can't dive into them any deeper, you can't tap them or enlarge to see data any clearer. It is just currently how it is in the current format. And like I said, this is the same again for the grid, and again the same for the solar. So we'll just wait for this to load up so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so on the grid one we can see the little red line at the top is when I've been pulling from the grid, which is quite small. Again, you can't zoom in to see anything. And then the yellow is when I've been exporting. Here's an example where the app is now having some slowdown in communication. One thing you will notice on your hub, the fourth green light will flash green. That indicates that the app and the hub are communicating. So if you ever notice that and think what's happening, it means that someone or you have left the app open and it's communicating back to the device. So we'll just wait for the app to wake up a little bit. Here we go, and now we can click on the solar, so we can see kind of what our solar generation history has been like. And we can see right now it's generating 1.6 kilowatt hours, and then we'll see that generation history in a moment. There we go. And then very quickly I'll just click on the battery just to show that the battery's idle, so nothing's going in or out. And really there's not a lot of information to be shown there. I don't think that's ever probably going to change, because there's obviously various battery manufacturers on the market, and it will be dependent on MyEnergi having some relationship that would kind of give them more information about battery, which they're probably not going to do because this is mainly around their products, right? But when energy is flowing in or out of the battery, it will show you kind of what's happening there by the directional arrows. So that's kind of it for the main areas. Before we go into looking at the Zappi and the Eddi specifically, this little green leaf in the middle, right now it's 100% as mentioned earlier because I'm completely green. You will see in real time that changes down a little bit. So if I end up pulling a little bit from the grid, that will change from 100 to 90, 80, 50, whatever it's doing. But if we click on it, then we can see in one place an aggregation of the consumption history of all those other things we looked at, but all in one place to see kind of how a system's performing on the day, previous day, or on monthly. So we can see that just here on the screen right now. So it is helpful that you can see all of this information in one place, but again, because you can't zoom in, like on when we looked at the grid earlier, we could see that little red line that showed our grid pull. Now you can really hardly see that at all on the left. It is there, but we can't zoom in to see it very well. But if we scroll down, it also gives us a bit more information about kind of how that energy has been used. So you can see here, majority of it was used in my house today, so I've had washing machines on, dishwashers, had the aircon on most of the day as well. There was a very small amount of Zappi charging happening because my car was pretty much full, so just a couple of kilowatts went in there, and then the rest of it went into heating the water with the Eddi. So it's quite good that you can see all this overall information, and that's where I think that if you haven't got an inverter or something that is smart that can show this statistics, that's where this page will be helpful. But now we're going to switch over and look at the Eddi and Zappi side of things. Okay, so I had to pause for a while because basically it's so hot in here that the camera was overheating. So apologies, not that it's been a microsecond for you. So obviously the lighting would have changed everything as things have been delayed. So just open up the app again and just waiting for it to reconnect, and then we can look at the Eddi and the Zappi configurations. So just need to be patient whilst it does the loading wheel. So just whilst we're waiting, this does happen sometimes. I think it's based on kind of how heavy server traffic is, etc. And yeah, there's no real thing that you can do. So I tend to just wait, and if it hasn't kind of sorted itself out after about 60 seconds, I will then close the app and open it up again and hope that it kind of has a new idea about connecting. So it's been a little while, so let me just close the app and then open it again, see how we get on. Okay, so just wait for the data to propagate, and then we'll be good. Okay, here we go. Right, so we actually see right now we've got a little bit of water heating going on. So you see in the Eddi heating, a couple of things happening. So we've got 0.4 kilowatt hours going in right now, so we've got a little bit of surplus, and we've had a total of 7 kilowatt hours go in to hot water so far today. A few things we have in terms of options. So we have the ability to configure boost times up to 4 hours. So we just drag that up and down to move it. It goes in 20-minute intervals, which to some ways seems a bit odd to me. I feel like 15-minute intervals would have been nicer, but maybe it's just me. But one of the things that's great about this, and has always been great since the app came out actually, is how fast it works. So if you set it to 40 minutes, for example, and if I press boost, pretty much instantaneously in real time, the Eddi will start to boost. So it works really, really well. So that's one of the things I'm most happy with. It's very difficult. I try and do a little overlay video for the Eddi and the Zappi to show that happening, but with the lighting and everything, it's quite difficult. But take my word for it, you press boost and it does it, which is kind of contrary to kind of how long it takes sometimes for the other data to load up. Again, we've got some consumption history in here that we had on the other screens, so we can see up to today, yesterday, previous week, last week, etc. And then one thing that I don't have set up right now is timed boost. So in the winter, when we don't have any solar to heat the water, I am using the timed boost to use my Octopus Go tariff to heat the water during off-peak, and that would show, and you'll see this on the Zappi because I do have that configured still right now. You'd see in this time box when things are configured to come on and off, or we can obviously just set new boost parameters here in the app. So you set when you want things to start. You don't set an end time, you set a duration. So you'd say, for me, start at 12:30, have a duration of 4 hours, and then we finish at 4:30 AM, and you select if you want that to be on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or all of those days, or whatever configuration you want. Save it, and it will then get applied to the device. So that's I think one of the, if you've got an Eddi, this is probably what you're going to be using the app for. It's just super easy to be able to boost it and kind of mess with the time as you see fit. So especially helpful if you've been away, perhaps on holiday, you've been away all day, and you're coming home, you know you want to have a bath or a shower, and the water might be cold. You can just boost it remotely, and it will do its business. So let's pop back to the home screen, wait for the connecting to work, and then we will look at the Zappi. Okay, so we click on the car icon for the Zappi. So a few things you'll notice in here. I don't have my car connected because it's fully charged. So there's a few things that basically it won't let us do. So you'll see that I can't manually start my charge. I can't do any smart charging because again the car isn't connected. But I'll talk to you about kind of what we can see on this screen. So obviously at the top right hand side we have the plug with a line through it because obviously the car isn't connected. If it was connected, similarly to the Eddi, you can see how much energy is going in there. Today I've only put 2 kilowatt hours in there because I hadn't used the car much since yesterday, so I really didn't need much charging at all. Then we have the options for the charging mode. So again, you're probably familiar with this anyway if you have a Zappi, but fast mode basically pulls from the grid in your battery to maximise up to that 7 kilowatt hours to charge your car as quickly as you can. If you have it on Eco, regardless of whether you've got any surplus or not, it will pull a minimum, I think it's a 1.3 kilowatt hours of energy from grid or whatever, and put it into your car. And then when you get a surplus of more than that, it will kind of increase. And then Eco Plus, basically depending on how you have your charge rate configured here, I have it configured for 100% green, because I really don't want to be pulling from the grid at all unless I can help it, unless it's off-peak. And then basically I'm only going to use surplus with my charging. So most of the time I have mine set in Eco Plus. As I mentioned, if I had the car connected, a bit like on the Eddi, I could drag a bar up and down and do a manual boost to start the charging of my vehicle, regardless of whether I had it on fast, Eco Plus. Smart charging, this is when you can configure some settings around kind of putting in a certain amount of charge to ensure that you have enough kilowatt hours of energy in your car to do a certain trip. I never personally ever use that one, but I know some people that do, so obviously you can configure that in the app as well. And then here in the time section is where it shows the timers. So I currently have a timer set every day of the week, including weekends, that starts at midnight midnight and has a duration of 4 hours and finishing at 4:30 in the morning, because that's when the Octopus Go tariff is valid. As you can see, it's not showing right now, basically because it's just not loading up in the app due to connectivity, I guess. So let me just pop out and back in again, see if we can make that propagate. There we go, so we can see it now. So that's what it looks like if you have a timer set, and obviously you can, same as on the Eddi, you can configure the starts and the durations for that as well. And then down the bottom we can see the charge history that we could see on the other screen. So that's pretty much how things are in terms of how you can connect and do things with your Zappi. So yeah, I'm really happy in general with how the app works. I say in general, I don't actually use it that much, but when I do want to kind of connect and utilize the ability to kick off those boosts for the Eddi or the Zappi, like I say, it works pretty much instantaneously, which really is good. A few of the frustrations are that, as you can see, it is very often slow to load. It has that connecting issue that can last a while. Also, one thing that I know they hope to do in the future but you can't do right now is I'd love to be able to see the firmware versions on the devices, as well as the ability to understand if a firmware update is available and to push those updates all remotely from the app. So basically it removes the need for me to interact with the device physically. Now the Zappi isn't too much of an issue because it's outside the house, it's near the car and all that kind of thing, whereas most people have their Eddi obviously positioned in the place it is accessible, but you don't tend to want to go into an airing cupboard or a wiring closet or something to have to make changes and do updates and all sorts of holding key combinations down to get into the bootloader screen and everything. Hopefully you can do that in the future from the app and things will be much better. But MyEnergi is a smaller company than the other companies that I'm using, so part of me feels like the app wasn't 100% ready, but they're getting there, they're putting it out there. Again, enables people to be eligible for the OLEV grant for the Zappi and stuff, and to be honest, it's better than nothing, and it gives them a strong platform to start on. Okay, right, and just to finish up, what I'm going to talk about now is I'm going to bring up just some comparisons in terms of how 3 different devices are measuring consumption and surplus and all this kind of thing in the same time period. And just not to say one's better than another or anything like that. This is just about showing you that all these different devices that you may have in your solar house and your smart home are going to be measuring things slightly differently. And really, what I want people to take away from it is there can be quite a big variance in accuracy. So you need to stick with something, in my head, in my opinion I should say, you need to stick with something and use that ongoing. So I always refer to my stats when in my Solar Edge app. Whatever that app says is what I kind of take as being my reference point. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Is Solar Edge is the inverter that's connected to my solar equipment, so it's probably most accurate, and it also has a powered CT clamp, so it tends to have a slightly higher accuracy reading than things like the Powerwall and the MyEnergi products. But so again, this isn't a one's better than the other, just sharing with you kind of how the variances can be. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, if you have nothing, then the MyEnergi app is fantastic because it's giving you data that you can now easier kind of chart and measure progress through over time. So I try and display this three in a row on the screen if I can. So we're going to look at the solar edge as being the primary or the master or the source of truth, and then comparing it to the same results where possible on the MyEnergi app and the Tesla Powerwall app. So we start off, we look at the generation. So the solar edge says that we had 46.48 kilowatt hours of generation yesterday. The MyEnergi app says we had 43 kilowatt hours of energy, and that's actually a variance of 7.5%. So it's 7.5% off the, in quotes, true data. If we look at the Powerwall says that we had 44.7 kilowatt hours of energy, so that's a 4% variance. So depending on how we look at things, the Powerwall is slightly more accurate in terms of what the solar edge data is saying. Then if we look at export, the solar edge says we exported 2.34 kilowatt hours, whereas the MyEnergi says we exported 1.9 kilowatt hours, which is a 19% variance, so 90% lower. And the Powerwall says that we exported 2.6 kilowatt hours, which is 11% over. So again, depending what your preference is, if you want to be cautious or throw care to the wind, I would say the Powerwall data is showing a slightly more accurate information in terms of export, but at the same time I would favour believing I exported less than more. If we look at importing, so the solar edge says we imported 0.97 kilowatt hours of electricity. MyEnergi says 1.1 kilowatt hours, which is 13% over estimated, or read or whatever the best way of defining it is. And the Powerwall says that we only imported 0.6 kilowatt hours, which is actually 38% lower. So that's quite a significant difference. Then in terms of energy consumed, the solar edge says we consumed 45.11 kilowatt hours. Currently the MyEnergi product doesn't show that in a raw statistic, you have to work that out yourself. And the Powerwall says that we consumed 40.6 kilowatts, so about 10% off. So again, I'm just sharing this information with you so you can see the differences of how different devices measure things. But there's always going to be some variance with the CT clamps. I think they kind of what the error rate is, or the plus or minus percentage thing that people quote. But yeah, to conclude, I'm glad that MyEnergi have released the app. They're definitely making strides to kind of make improvements. I'm interested to hear from you. Have you got the app? How are you finding it? Especially if you're on an Android platform as well, because I haven't had much experience with that. But issues you've found, things you reported, have they been fixed? MyEnergi will be quite active now on a forum where you can kind of get updates as to what firmware revisions are coming out, and post kind of problems and concerns and stuff. So be interested to hear down below how you guys are getting on. Thanks for watching this video. A thumbs up would be really appreciated. If you're interested in other geek type videos, please consider subscribing to Spectrum Geeks. Why not also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter? And before you leave, why don't you check out one of these other videos that may be of interest. Thanks again for watching.